Hi, this is Alia with Dance with Alia, and I'm here with Princess Farhana, who has taken her time out of her busy schedule to talk to me and you about contrasting burlesque and belly dance. First of all, I'd like you to introduce us to burlesque. What is burlesque dance?
And let me define commercial and burlesque stripping for a minute by way of my friend Joe Weldon, who's a renowned burlesque performer and also the author of the Burlesque Handbook. This is just paraphrasing one of her things. The difference between burlesque and commercial stripping is burlesque dancers dance for an audience, commercial strippers dance for clients. Burlesque dancers usually have a background in dance or theater arts. Many commercial strippers have a background in adult films, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but they're not the same animal. So burlesque has a really rich history that in this country has gone on since 1868. Mm-hmm. And it encompasses not just striptease, but also singing, dancing, acting. The women and now the many men who perform it are in charge of creating their own persona on stage. They give you a full, 3-act play in 3 to 7 minutes, with a storyline, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and there's a reason why it's become such a fad, and one of the reasons is it's really fun. It's also really exciting to watch, and right now, with the way our economy has been in the past few years, I think that's one of the reasons burlesque has grown really popular, because it was popular during the Depression. It was extremely popular, and during World War II. And I think in times of social stress and a bad economy, people just want to be taken away, and a burlesque show does that for sure. It's also a very adult and wink, wink, nudge, nudge form of entertainment involving a lot of parody, a lot of sometimes raunchy or sometimes very intellectual jokes. I mean, it's a really fun show that's not a Disney family friendly show. Now, the Velvet Hammer was actually the first professional burlesque troupe in the country of new burlesque, and it was started by my friend Michelle Carr and Rita Dalbert, and they and a bunch of the other girls that were in the original and later versions of it were all friends in Hollywood, all either working in the music industry or the film business, and we all loved rockabilly music, 50s jazz, old cars, old men's magazines, pin-up stuff, vintage clothes, and we decided we wanted to create a real burlesque show. So Michelle and Rita sort of produced it, and no one ever dreamed it was going to last beyond one night. Yeah. And in those days, people didn't even know what burlesque was, as I still, flash forward to 1995. So they did one show, and I was out of the country, but I'd been belly dancing for about 4.5 or 5 years at that point. So they were doing another show because the first show went so well, and they kept asking me if I wanted to be in it. And I loved striptease. By that point, I knew who, who Tempest Storm was, who Blaze Starr was, Zorita, all the old stars of burlesque. But I didn't really want to strip because I was working at a lot of Arabic clubs, and I just thought if it gets out, I mean, this wasn't even about the belly dance burlesque thing. It was just I didn't want to lose my job because the people that worked at those places were, Muslim, and they were local to L.A., even though they advertised in the Arabic papers. The Velvet Hammer was getting so much local press coverage at that time that I was like, I can't, maybe I shouldn't do this. And she's like, well, I don't want you to do striptease. I want you to belly dance. And I was like, and then I was like, well, I'm not going to take my top off if I belly dance, because it was the same as, other belly dancers. I was sick of getting confused with being a stripper. Right. And I liked some strippers, commercial or the old burlesque stars, but I didn't want people to think that I was a stripper. Yeah. Because I wasn't. I was a belly dancer. And so Michelle kept telling me every burlesque show had a belly dancer. Every burlesque show worth its salt had a belly dancer. So this time I really did go to the library and do research, because there was much more stuff, even though it was still limited in those days, on burlesque than there was on belly dancing, because burlesque is, you know, an American thing.
Mostly books, or
Yeah, books. And then I'd already seen like all the movies involving it, which were mostly like biopics, like Natalie Wood and Gypsy, or, you know, there wasn't, or every so often you'd see like a great crazy B movie on at 2 a.m. Do you know what I mean? Like Lady of Burlesque with Barbara Stanwyck or something, you know. There wasn't really any documentaries about it at that point. But so there really was belly dancers at all the burlesque shows. And then I started finding out that after Little Egypt was at the 1893 World's Fair, that there was already like a real, you know, for years there had been an established burlesque circuit even at that point, and continuing on into the 20th century. And because Little Egypt had caused such a ruckus with her, you know, with her scandalous and obscene movements, many women that were doing the, you know, the burlesque circuit and dancing burlesque, whether it was in America or like at the Folies Bergère or the Moulin Rouge or across Europe, there was a huge Orientalist thing going on concurrently, not even having to do with Little Egypt. And, you know, you can tell from like 20s architecture and 20s style clothing, because King Tut's tomb had just been discovered, and, you know, Salome by Oscar Wilde was in theater. You know, I mean, it was like kind of a converging vortex. So there was burlesque artists doing Oriental dances. Even though we call belly dancing Oriental dance, they just meant that it was an Oriental flavored dance. And there was a ton of people in America calling themselves Little Egypt, you know, doing like interpretations of what they thought was an Oriental dance. And then there was like serious artists too that were taking their clothes off to do like Eastern inspired dances, like Ruth St. Denis of the Denishan Dance Company, and Isadora Duncan, and you know, Loie Fuller, and then you know, European stars and infamous people like Mata Hari and Ida Brooks, who performed in the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo's version of Scheherazade and also of Cleopatra, and appeared in Cleopatra nude on stage in point. I mean, it was just, you know, where do you start drawing the line at that point? So the way that I even started teaching burlesque was a little bit odd. Somebody from Paramount Pictures called Michelle Carr from the Velvet Hammer to see they were having a baby shower, and they wanted, it was a baby shower / bridal shower, and they wanted someone to teach burlesque. And so she referred it to me because I was the only person in the whole troupe that taught dance.
Okay.
And I called up the lady. I worked everything out. There was going to be girls and women there from the ages of 10 to about 85. So I put a whole bunch of boas in a trash bag and drove out to Glendale at 2 in the afternoon on a sunny Saturday. And then I found out it was an Armenian family. And even though the girl that was working at Paramount was like a hipster that had seen the Velvet Hammer, the whole family was kind of like very traditional, and I was kind of like a little bit taken aback. I gave them a few words about the history of burlesque. Everyone was like really interested. I took out the boas, and the next thing you know, there's like the 85-year-old grandma like going, "I love the hoochie coochie," like that, you know, and like little kids playing with the boas, and pregnant women doing like classic burlesque steps. And I looked at this and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Women are loving this. This is so cool.